Well, aren't you looking pretty for the camera? And we haven't even started yet. So hey guys, welcome back to my channel and to another grooming session. Sorry, I know I tell you that I do their hooves before I put them on camera, and I do, but I'm just not liking what I saw here. And I just want to do it while I'm thinking about it so I don't forget. There was just a little bit of shaping. I actually prefer to use my grinder for shaping and all that, but we know that the grinder stinks on camera, and it was just a little bit out of shape, so I wanted to get that done. So how's that for an intro? Just dive right in. So this is Jacey up on the stand. Jacey is one of my not OG goats, because my OG goats are Fanta and Emma, who you saw in the last 2 weeks, but she is my first baby goat that I kept. She's an Emma baby, and she is, despite the fact that she's going to act all ornery up on the stand, she is the most fabulous personality ever. She passes that personality to her kids every year, year after year. Everybody that has a Jacey kid knows it because they're just outgoing, bold. They love people. They're awesome. They really are. And in fact, somebody commented recently on one of my non-grooming videos that some of Jacey's grandchildren, if we call them that, or grandkids, technically, I guess, grand goats, are living their best life as part of an educational and an educational group that certainly works with children. I don't know what else they work with, but like that, to me, that's the ultimate validation, right? The shows, the titles, all that is a whole lot of fun, and it feels good, and it makes me know that I'm using my degree in biology to at least somewhat. It's not really a degree in biology. It's a degree in biopsychology, but biology is a part of it. But it makes me feel like I'm using that a little bit, right? All that learning that I did that I don't use for my day job. At least I'm putting it to good use in terms of making the right choices, genetics, and really pushing the quality level of our herd forward. But more important than all of that, honestly, is the fact that the temperament on my animals is such that they have the ability to be in situations like that. Let me mention a few things early on here while I'm doing this. Jacey, at the time of this recording, still has her twins with her, so she is still semi-nursing. I would not call her nursing in full. I would call her semi-nursing because she's, the kids are going home 2 days after this recording, so she's got them pretty fully weaned. But that doesn't mean that they're not still comfort nursing from her. It doesn't mean that her udder is empty. It's actually quite full right now because it has to dry off, and it'll really only do that once the kids are gone. I am cutting hair around her udder that has gotten clumped up from the kids chewing on it, from pee and poop, from the lovely effects of birth, of giving birth. She's not a show goat. She doesn't need this hair, and I'm not going to torture her. And I use that term lightly. She's not actually, when I do brush it out, they're not being tortured, but there's no need for me to stand here for 30 minutes cutting crusty, poopy hair. I'm not cutting, but brushing and getting all these poopy pieces out of the back of her hair where nobody's looking anyway, number one. And number two, it's sensitive. Her udder is full. Her babies are not nursing as much. She needs to dry off. That means there's pressure there. That means that there's, her nipples are probably, they're not nipples, they're teats. Let me use the right terminology before somebody comes after me. But her teats are probably sore as all get out because her kids, of course, have teeth now. They have teeth when they're born, but it's a different, they use them differently now. Let's put it that way. I'm trying to kind of make this, give the analogy closer to what would a human mom would go through, but that's kind of what she's at. That's why she's tap dancing back here. That's why I've got the scissors out and I'm less concerned about, just whacking off a chunk of yucky hair rather than working on brushing it through. It's all just dead clumps of hair and shed out. And I mean, heck, the babies actually chew on their hair, the mama's hair, right? And they will break off pieces. It's all that yuck. The joys of being a mom. So at any rate, truly, totally validating that Jacey's temperament and the kids that she produces and raises, because she raises her own kids, I don't raise them, all kind of carry that same disposition. She's not really showing it on the stand, to be fair, but she is she is really she's got a fabulous temperament. And if you see her out in any of my videos where we're out in the pasture, she's right there with me. She's laying her head in my lap. She's a wonderful, wonderful goat, and she passes that on to her babies. And the fact that her babies are in a learning situation where they're, whether they're not therapy animals, but they're teaching animals, they're animals that are out in the public on a consistent and regular basis, is so validating. It really is. So it was not what I wanted to talk about, but that's where we went. Isn't that fun? Meanwhile, I just a couple of things that I also want to mention. During my last video with Emma, I talked about the fact that I put a new grinding wheel on my Hoof Boss that does all my hoof trims with, I do my hoof trims with. Note to self, when you have a new grinding wheel on and you've not replaced it in 5 years, you get very comfortable where, if you happen to, if the goat kicks and the grinder slips and hits your hand, it doesn't hurt. Well, when it's new, apparently, and I should have remembered this from when it was new originally, it'll grind the skin right off of you. So I have a boo-boo on my thumb. If you see a little boo-boo there, it's not the end of the world. I didn't cut my finger off. I don't need stitches, but it's not coagulating quite quickly enough. So we've got a little blood going on. Not enough, I hope, to make anybody even notice, but someone eagle-eyed is going to see it, and I might as well mention it. I did it to myself. I should be wearing gloves. Technically, I should also be wearing safety goggles. Heck, the system comes with safety goggles. It doesn't come with gloves, but it comes with safety goggles. So I should absolutely be wearing that when I do the grinding. I don't. I am the worst person when it comes to safety for myself. When it comes to safety for my animals, for my loved ones, I am also the worst person because I'm the biggest nag. You should see when Farm Hubby mows the lawn. Tonka, our farm dog, rides the lawnmower with him, which is perfectly fine. It's a great companion for him. It keeps him, a little bit focused, a little bit entertained, especially when, Tonka decides he needs to go leap off and chase something. But both of them, both the dog and the hubby, are wearing ear protectors and eye protectors, and they are absolutely not doing what I do, which is go kind of into everything with no protective gear whatsoever, right? So yes, the dog has goggles and wears goggles. The dog has ear protectors and wears ear protectors. He looks ridiculous. I make fun of him every time because the ear protectors are just kind of a big wrap around the head, so he looks like he's wearing a little babushka and his ears aren't out anymore. But they're close to a loud noise, and dogs' ears are sensitive, and he figured that out pretty quickly, and he's extremely tolerant. He actually likes getting it put on because he knows he's going to get to go ride the mower. And the husband has the same thing. He's got his big earmuffs on, and he's got earmuffs, ear protectors. They're not earmuffs. And he's got his safety goggles on for anything that may kick up. Meanwhile, me, I'm grinding away at hooves. There's pieces and dust flying everywhere. It's hitting my face sometimes, probably stuck on my forehead sometimes when I'm taking these videos. I'm not wearing any protective gear whatsoever. Sometimes do as I say, not as I do, right? I know, girl. We're going to get to the scissors and not worry about brushing all this out. I just want to get it clear of some of your good hair because I don't want to cut out your good hair. So it's nice to know. When I pulled Jacey out of the stall, her boys followed us to the door, right? And then I had to tell them they needed to stay behind. You're fine, girl. I know. And then they cried for a second. And then I'm pleased to see that they're now perfectly quiet. I was going to tell you the other thing that I wanted to tell you was, when you hear Jacey making noise, if she starts to talk, or you hear babies hollering in the background, that's just her babies hollering for her, but they're not, which is awesome. Means that they are definitively weaned and ready to go home. Actually, only one of them is going home this weekend. The other one is hanging around until their new family can come get them. We were talking about that the other day. And, by the time you see this, all of these babies will be gone. But interestingly enough, this year, my babies are going up and down the East Coast. We've got upstate New York, we've got Massachusetts, we've got down to Virginia, down to the Carolinas. Nobody's sticking around local this year, except for, well, that's not true, not nobody. I have 2 groups, so I'm really making things up as I go along. No, I'm kidding. I'm just not stating them correctly. So a lot of the gang is leaving the state and going elsewhere, but I do have 2 groups that are, one's going to very North Jersey, the other one's going to very South Jersey. I have my keeper, of course, and then we have Ladybug, who joined the family, and pretty sure that's, at this point, stuck. Hopefully it is, because if you're watching this video and that didn't stick, is a name for her, well, you're gonna be like, who the heck is that? So her registered name is Lady Driver. We were going to just call her Lady or Lady Driver directly. And, I don't like either one of those for her as a call name. There you go. But we don't change the baby's name. We don't change the names that our breeders give them, even though they're just registered names and they could be changed. I don't do that. I feel better about kind of keeping and respecting the breeder's name choices. So she's going to stay Lady Driver no matter what. Well, she has to, because that's what she's registered as. But she's also, that's what we call her, right? And Lady isn't working for her, so we started to call her Ladybug. Ladybug seems to be sticking. Of course, it's because she's a cute little bottle baby. So hopefully when she's not a cute little bottle baby, it's still sticking. Because I really like it. The other option, was Lady Bird. Didn't really like that. Just Lady plain old. And that's okay. And we'll probably, at points in time, call her Lady, because you always shorten names to the one syllable. But I think Ladybug is really cute, and she's really cute, and I like it. And so that's probably what she'll be. And hopefully by the time you see this video, she's still that. Tell me in the comments, because I won't remember. Hi, at any rate, so yeah, babies are going home. Of course, by the time you see this, they'll all be gone, or at least they should be. There's always, possibility that life has stepped in and changed those plans, but in theory, they should all be gone by the time you see this. At the time of recording, they are just getting ready to leave in the next day or 2, at least some of them. And so it's a sad time. The other thing that's happening at the time of this recording, but will also be done by the time you see it, is our annual vet visit. Our annual vet visit is always an adventure. I love my vet to death. She's the best thing since sliced bread. She is one of the main reasons that I am still capable of doing all of this, because, she's not just a vet, right? She's also a teacher, a friend, somebody who Sometimes we learn from each other, right? There are times that she sees me doing something. Why are you doing that? And we discuss it. And it's like, oh, well, let me pass that on to other clients. More often than not, of course, I'm learning from her, which is how it should be. And she's just such a generous teacher, vet, period, right? So our annual visit is when all the animals on the farm get their individual checkup. So we get, full on weights. We get their, they get checked over for their hearts, their lungs, I don't think that's a good idea. Can we try and go right back in there? Thank you. Oh, no, don't pull against me. Don't pull against me. Oh, you're so frustrating. Okay, guys. So for the people, oh, no. Oh, my goodness. Why are you being so difficult? I know, nobody likes baths. Get over it. There we go. Oh. Oh, if you don't have patience with goats, you will never survive. So for those, I thought I had you that time. Okay, girl. That's all right. You done? Oh, one more time. Push you forward. And now we're going to have to do it the way I do the littler goats, where we go on the inside. Okay. So it was my fault for thinking that she should be secured like a big goat. Clearly not. Now I probably have soap all over my face. It's always an adventure. You remember what I was talking about, because that has totally ruined my train of thought. And now I have another thought. So remind me in the comments what I was talking about, and I'll cover off on it in another video. Oh yeah, I forgot to move the muck bucket. Let's move that before it fills with water, shall we? This is what happens when I'm on goat 3 for the day. So I really have no idea what I was talking about. I can't even come up with it. I know I had talked about babies and where babies were going and babies are leaving. Oh, annual vet visits. That's where we were. See, that's all it took. Little reminder. So yes, so we get weights, we do heart, we do lungs, we do eyes, we do ears, all the things, right? The normal checkup, just like a dog or a cat would at the vet. They also get their rabies vaccinations every year. And we also do blood draws for what I call herd testing, or what is called herd testing. And it is testing for the 3 really bad communicable diseases that goats can get: CL, CAE, and Iones. It's something that we can talk about at a different video if you want. I'm not the expert in any of them, and I am thankful that I am not the expert in any of them, because if I were, that would mean I was dealing with them. All of those are diseases that, if you're a responsible breeder, in my opinion, it means that your herd unfortunately gets cold, your pasture becomes fallow, you have to leave it completely pristine for years before you can start over. It is just, those are bad. They're bad, right? And there are herds that say you can manage them, and, you pull babies so that they don't get exposure, and you have a different pasture for your positive animals versus your negative animals. But it's such a communicable disease. It's a disease, or they are diseases that can live in the environment for years. Not days, not weeks, not months, years. So my opinion, if ever, God forbid, it were to happen and we were to be exposed and we would have a positive goat, the likelihood that the rest of your goats are going to get it is quite high, even with extreme biosecurity protocols. It's not something to play around with, my opinion. And again, there are differing opinions out there. So please, it is an opinion. It is not a fact. It is not a requirement. It is the way I would do it, but not the way that you have to do it. You got a tinkle? Is that why you've been dancing? You still got mama bladder? All right. So at any rate, we do testing for that. And we do that testing. I used to do it every other year, thinking that that was plenty, right? If your goats are negative one year, they should be negative the next year, especially if you haven't exposed them to anything. And, you know, our herd is small. We're a closed herd, meaning I'm not constantly bringing animals in. I don't lease animals out. So they're not, other than the travel to the show twice a year where I'm going to see and be with other breeders with animals that are tested just as rigorously as mine, the risk was small. But as I've gotten older and I've gotten, you know, my herd has gotten more mature and frankly a little bit more valuable, right? I do annual testing. That way I can address any situation as fast as possible. I certainly don't want a situation festering for 2 years. If you catch it early on, right? So we do what's called titers. Titers tell you what's in the blood. So these communicable diseases are, frankly, they're in most goats' blood, right? Like, you're not going to get a zero result, or at least not most of the time. You're going to get a result. I know you're done with this. You're going to get a result that shows what is considered to be a negative exposure level, right? They have antibodies that are working to keep everything in check. The disease is not in its active state, and it's not communicable, right? That's what your herd needs to be. It's not going to be zero. So by taking those titers every year, you can monitor truly the overall health and well-being of your herd, and you can make this, if you ever had to make a hard decision, you could make that decision well, not easily, but very, very much early, meaning that, like, let's say, and I'm not using correct numbers, right? I'm not trying to make this a medical discussion, but let's pretend that the titer levels are 0 to 100, where 100 is, you know, the worst of the worst. It's fatal. Your goat is in, if not already gone, it's in a lot of trouble. Anything above 50 is considered positive, meaning that the goat is experiencing the disease and is probably able to communicate it or transmit it to other animals. Like, they're likely shedding it, and that is how it gets transmitted. And anything below 50 is considered negative, no problem. It's just the normal environmental exposure, right? Let's just, again, for sake of the discussion, that's how the numbers work. Those are not even close to what the numbers are. And they're not even close to what thresholds are. So if you're going to go look it up and quote me, fabulous, do it. I love when people want to learn. But trust me when I say I'm not giving you the specifics, because I just don't remember them. I would need a book myself to know. She's pooping like a maniac. I'm just cleaning up the poop from under the stall right now because I don't want to be dancing on it and smashing it into the concrete if I don't have to be. So apologies for the quick break in the action here. So anyway, so because it's tighter and because there are levels, I do test every year now. And I think that's just my risk tolerance has gone down. Testing is expensive. It's an absolutely ridiculous amount of money. And I say that with all due respect to everybody that's involved in the process. But it is expensive. It is upwards of $1,000 to test my herd every year, and I only have 11 goats. Can you imagine what it's like when you have more than that? It would be probably slightly less expensive, but not by much, if I did the blood draw myself instead of having the vet do it, because I wouldn't be paying for her time and expertise. But at the same time, there's a convenience factor, right? She's here. She's much more competent at drawing blood than I am by any means. Hitting a jugular and drawing blood is something I can do and have done, but it is not something that I am good at or skilled at, and I could end up having to poke the poor animal several times before I get it right. And, you know, Nobody wants that, right? So it's much more better for the vet to do it themselves. It's also, I'm not going to say there's a bulk discount for a vet submitting them, but I feel like it gets a little bit more of an expedited treatment. It gets a little bit more of a robust report when a vet is submitting versus when an individual is submitting. So again, I say that to just say, look, from my perspective, even on a year like this, and this is a year where I should be skipping it, you can't test babies because it takes at least 2 years for even an exposed goat to demonstrate any level of titers and antibodies that are trustworthy in terms of the report. So even an exposed goat who is young can't be tested. So here I am with a herd, most of whom have never left the property in years, were tested negative last year completely. I haven't brought in any new animals other than little lady, and she's too young to test. So, and she's also, too new to have created an exposure situation. So testing this year would be a year to skip, right? Nothing has happened. Nothing has changed. Everybody's condition is good. This would be the year to skip if I was going to skip a year. The reason I don't is because those titers to me are important, right? And we talked about the threshold levels. So if 49 is good and 51 is bad, my opinion is, that's just kind of what I'll call that. At some point you have to draw the line. What is the line? And so if I see a goat whose titers have been, 20 for years and years and years, and then suddenly are now 45, they're still negative, but they're awful close to that positive stage. They're awful close to being at a point where they might be transmitting instead of just managing, right? Just the environmental exposure status. And it is a risk that certainly needs to be discussed with your vet, with your team, with any of your herd owners. What do you do? Do you remove that animal from your herd? Do you test that animal again in 6 months and see if things have gone back, back to normal, and it was just a bad day and they were stressed, because that can happen. Those titers are not, they're specific to the day it was taken, right? So do you test again? But by having that annual look, you get a much better chance of preventing loss of your whole herd. If you have an animal that's gone 2 years, and in those 2 years, something has changed and that animal is now positive, and you can't pinpoint when they, quote unquote, turned positive, right? You have to then, first and foremost, test everybody else, right? So even if you save the money for 2 years, you're spending it anyway, because now you got to test everybody, and you're going to have to test them multiple times because you have a definitive positive animal. But you have to disclose that. And disclosure is a lot like real estate disclosure. It's a bit of an honor system. It's really about being a responsible human being. It's about being a trustworthy breeder and somebody who is appropriate. What we got there? Oh, just vegetation. It looked like it had legs for a second. It does not. So if you have a positive animal, my opinion is that you have to disclose that. Even if you don't, change your herd and you decide that you're just going to be more, responsible with testing and monitoring, that's a completely fine decision to make, but you have to disclose that to your buyers. Your buyers should not be buying an animal from a herd that has had a positive test, regardless of whether you think that the animal they're buying is completely, disease-free. You still need to disclose to the buyer what the risk is. And a lot of buyers will absolutely walk away. I know I would. And I understand that that's, you know, that's sort of an incentive to not behave appropriately and not disclose. But it's such a bad disease and it's so terrible, you know, and there's 3 of them, but they all kind of have the same ramifications. If it is introduced to your herd and it's not controlled, you're losing your entire herd. And then you really, again, from a responsible perspective, cannot introduce other ruminants, all ruminants. Think about that. That's like, you can't just say, well, okay, I'm done with goats, so I'll get sheep now. No, all ruminants have to be off the property for, I think it's 5 to 6 years is the going standard before you would reintroduce them and feel that your environment is not going to expose them. And that's just not, that is not a risk that I am willing to take. I know. That's why I'm going as fast as I can here, girl. You are so done, but you still have some hair coming out. So let's finish. This is why I'm happy that there's side rails so that they don't dance themselves right off the stand. And this is why I didn't, you know, just like with Emma, I didn't switch sides. I usually let the conditioner sit a bit longer, like I did on that side where I don't finish. I let it sit. I go do the other side. She's so done. We're just going to get her off the stand. But I hope you understand a little bit about my thoughts on, you know, annual vet visit, annual testing. To me, anything close to a positive animal requires action. And sometimes that action is nothing more than just testing again, right? And sort of easing your mind that it was just a bad day. Or a bad read on a test. Oh my gosh, the industry had that one year. Scared the daylights out of a lot of us. And it turned out that the lab had an error. So there were many farms that spent many weeks stressing. Yeah, I know, I'm swinging. I'm going as fast as I can here, girl. We still got to do the other side though, so you're going to get over it. She wants to get back to her babies. She wants to be done with this. But do you see, I'm still pulling all this cashmere out of you. And if we don't get it out, it's going to make the next groom even longer. So you'll be all right. You'll be all right. You'll be all right. You'll be all right. Apparently she doesn't like the topic I'm talking about. I actually don't blame her for that. So bottom line for me and for my herd is we test every year. And the other reason I mentioned that this would be a good year for me to be off of testing, so to speak, is truly because I had so many boys this year, right? And boys, from a pricing perspective, are a significant difference than girls when you're selling babies. Even bucks are less expensive to buy than does. Oh, are you pooping again? You are so displeased with this whole situation. She is doing everything she can to let me know she is unhappy. And sometimes, just like kids, they have to be unhappy for a few minutes. They'll survive. They're not in pain. They're not, you know, they're not worrying. She just wants to be back in her pasture with her babies, and she is not interested in being here anymore. And I'm okay with that. My feelings are not hurt about that. But we're still going to finish because it would be silly to do all of this and not finish. So I do annual testing. And again, a year like this where, you know, I've got 8 boys and 2 girls. So I'm actually, you know, heck, we're not even coming close to breaking even on, you know, maintaining the adults for the year in between breedings, for all of the work that we put into our goats and raising our babies, for all of the vaccines and microchips and everything else that goes into being appropriate as a breeder, my opinion, not a fact. You know, registrations and everything costs a little, each thing costs a little bit of money, right? So you know, taking the year off testing would certainly help us get closer to breaking even for the year. And that's all I can ever ask for. I don't ask to make a profit here. That is not what we're doing. If I was trying to make a profit, I'd have a huge herd. I'd be breeding, you know, 50 babies. I don't know, I'll make enough numbers. And not raising babies for personalities like this. Didn't I start today's video telling you how wonderful Jacey is and what a fabulous goat she is? Oh, she's really showing it, isn't she? Oh, you have to have some patience if you're dealing with goats. So yeah, we're gonna herd test this year anyway. It's not even, for me, it's not even a question anymore. It's just, we do it. And if that means that, you know, this year's quote unquote business P&L isn't where it's supposed to be, so be it. I'm happier knowing that my herd is healthy. I'm happier knowing that when I'm selling babies, I am selling them from a herd that is healthy and the baby is healthy and there's no risks. And I like having sort of insurance. I like having that documentation that tells me that this year all was well. JC apparently, on the other hand, does not agree with anything I had to say today. And so we are going to get her off the stand and let her get back to her babies, which is really what's driving all of this nonsense. And I am going to see if I can get one more goat done today. So you probably have to listen to me prattle on for just one more time. And then I'm going to wrap it up and call it a night because it's actually getting close to dinner already. All right, guys, till next time, there's work to be done. Bye for now.